put too much pressure on Tyler Perry. You know what I mean? He ain't put nobody on. The people that been in his productions, they not famous. All of them can walk through the mall without security.
Y'all, Hollywood just flinched. And this time it wasn't a rumor, a tweet, or a leaked DM. It was a pattern. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Because what if everything you thought you knew about power in Hollywood was backwards? What if the biggest platforms don't actually put people on, but use people up? What if fame isn't elevation, but containment? Tonight, a name is being whispered again. Not shouted. Not defended. Whispered. Teyana Taylor. And no, this isn't the fairy tale version the media sells. This isn't about talent, timing, or she just worked harder. This is about strategy, about alignment, about who gets protected and who gets processed. According to what Katt Williams has allegedly been hinting at, Hollywood doesn't run on love. It runs on leverage. Relationships aren't personal. Breakups aren't accidental. And silence is the most expensive currency of all. Ask yourself this. Why do so many people pass through powerful systems and leave without real power? Why do the faces change but the machine never does? Why do the ones who follow the rules survive while the ones who question them disappear? This isn't about blaming anyone outright. It's about noticing who benefits, who stays quiet, and who keeps moving up while everyone else stalls. Behind the red carpets and standing ovations, there's a colder reality, where ambition looks like romance, opportunity feels like rescue, and emotional moments quietly become career pivots. Katt Williams isn't saying names by accident. He's pointing at a system that rewards compliance and punishes resistance. A system where timing is everything, optics are currency, and people are replaceable. So before you dismiss this as gossip, before you call it coincidence, ask the uncomfortable question. If Hollywood is really about talent, why does it keep producing control? And if this is all just speculation, why does everyone look so nervous when it's said out loud? Stay with me, because once this story starts unfolding, it doesn't stop at fame. It ends at power. Hollywood is shaken again. Not because of a scandal that broke overnight. Not because of leaked footage or a courtroom filing. But because a pattern is being whispered out loud. This time, the name circling the industry isn't shouted. It's spoken carefully, measured, almost nervously. Teyana Taylor. And no, this isn't the version of the story you've already seen. This isn't the glossy timeline. This isn't the press-approved narrative where everything is growth, healing, and the next chapter. This is the version people only talk about after the cameras are off. According to what Katt Williams has allegedly been pointing at, Hollywood doesn't move on love, loyalty, or even raw talent. It moves on timing, on alignment, on knowing when to stay quiet and when to pivot. And that context changes everything. Because when Teyana Taylor's marriage to Iman Shumpert collapsed, the public saw heartbreak. But insiders say Hollywood saw transition. Allegedly, this wasn't just a personal ending. It was a directional split. Iman, by most accounts, wanted stability, a family man image, a slower lane where legacy mattered more than expansion. Teyana, however, according to whispers that refused to die, was aiming wider. Global reach. Hollywood penetration. Access beyond music. Katt Williams' alleged framing isn't about blame. It's about misalignment. When two people want two different futures, love doesn't always survive the strategy. The divorce happened. Fans watched Iman unravel publicly. And Teyana didn't collapse. She moved. That's when the industry started paying closer attention. As what followed didn't look random. First came Aaron Pierre. Fresh face. British accent. Serious roles. Awards-coded presence. Hollywood insiders quietly labeled him next up. According to industry whispers, the connection between Teyana and Aaron wasn't framed as romance behind closed doors. It was framed as positioning, not emotional, strategic.
Because P. Diddy be wanting the body. And you gotta tell him no. You got to tell him no.
Katt Williams has allegedly hinted that in Hollywood, rebounds don't always heal hearts. Sometimes they build ladders. But that chapter didn't last long. And when it ended, the pivot didn't slow down. It escalated. That's when speculation took a global turn. Leonardo DiCaprio. No confirmation. No photos that told the whole story. Just patterns. Fashion Week proximity. Private industry circles. Elite access that doesn't happen accidentally. According to Katt Williams' tone, not his words, the implication was simple. When you've won locally, you don't stop playing. You change tables. Again, nothing proven. Just raised eyebrows. And an industry that suddenly stopped pretending not to notice. Then came the backlash. The film. The criticism. Accusations that black women were being sexualized. That visuals were objectified. That storytelling was shaped through a male gaze. The audience waited. They expected resistance. A statement. A line drawn. Instead, allegedly, Teyana defended the project. She didn't challenge the framing. She didn't push back publicly. She focused on awards, visibility, momentum. And that's when Katt Williams' alleged warning started to make sense to some people. In Hollywood, principles don't always pay. Perks do. And silence often comes with benefits. That's when a far heavier name entered the picture. Tyler Perry. Not as a villain. Not as a savior. But as power. A system. A platform. A machine. At this point in the timeline, Teyana was reportedly exhausted, emotionally spent, fresh out of public heartbreak, and surrounded by sympathy. According to one version of events, that's when the Tyler Perry system opened its doors. And publicly, the narrative looked flawless.
She is showing me everything that she's been able to do is really phenomenal. This woman, when I called her up to do the movie, she was like, "Are you? Yeah, I think I know." But she killed it. You'll see what I mean. You will see what I.
On the surface, it sounded like mentorship, like praise, like opportunity, and that's exactly how power prefers to look. But critics of the system argue that praise is often the softest form of control, because when someone offers visibility at your most vulnerable moment, it creates a bond, one that isn't written, but is deeply felt. According to Katt Williams' alleged perspective, Tyler Perry isn't just a filmmaker. He's infrastructure. And infrastructure has rules. Follow the machine, the logic goes, and the machine moves you forward. In this version of the story, Teyana didn't walk into the system blind. And Tyler Perry didn't offer access for free. This wasn't exploitation in the dramatic sense. It was mutual leverage. Visibility in exchange for relevance, stability in exchange for silence. No heroes, no villains, just a system doing what systems do. But then the tone shifted, because once this alignment became visible, another voice resurfaced. One Hollywood has learned to fear, dismiss, and quietly monitor. Jaguar Wright. And when her words re-entered the conversation, the temperature changed.
It happened to Black Hollywood, and he did it by using stupid, ignorant, so-called Christian to fund all of his very homosexual behavior. He ain't rich.
These are her allegations, not proven facts, not confirmed claims, but they landed hard. And they landed hard because Jaguar Wright has built a reputation for saying what others won't, and for making people deeply uncomfortable in the process. Her words reframed the conversation. Suddenly, Tyler Perry wasn't just power. He was controversy. And Hollywood doesn't panic over gossip. It panics over patterns that refuse to stay buried. At this point, the story stopped being about one woman's career choices. It became about a system, one that repeatedly places black women into the same positions. Broken, hypersexualized, or silently strong. When they play along, the system elevates them. But it never stops owning the leverage. Katt Williams isn't saying Teyana Taylor is a villain. He's saying Hollywood doesn't reward innocence. It rewards adaptation. And the tragedy isn't that people learn to play the game. It's that the game rarely lets them leave. Today, Teyana stands in the spotlight. Applauded. Protected. But history has shown what happens when silence expires. And that leaves one question hanging. Uncomfortable, unresolved, and impossible to ignore. Is Teyana Taylor playing the game? Or is the game slowly tightening around her? Hollywood doesn't panic when rumors circulate. It panics when patterns start lining up to be why the time the story reached its second act. Something had already changed behind the scenes. Phones stopped ringing the same way. Invitations became conditional. Conversations suddenly required trust before they required truth. Because once a system realizes it's being watched, it doesn't explain itself. It repositions. At this stage, the narrative around Teyana Taylor became unusually controlled. Not louder. Not defensive. Controlled. Public appearances were polished. Messaging stayed consistent. No emotional outbursts, no messy responses. And in Hollywood, restraint is never accidental. According to industry observers, this is the phase where careers don't fall, they're managed. Where damage isn't denied, it's redirected. Where uncomfortable questions are buried beneath curated success. What makes this moment different isn't what was said, it's what wasn't. No direct rebuttals, no confrontations, no clarifications, just movement. Projects continued, doors remained open, visibility increased. And that's where critics of the system raised their eyebrows. Because in Hollywood, momentum after controversy doesn't happen by chance. It happens when someone higher up decides the narrative still has value. This is the part most people misunderstand. Power doesn't destroy talent. It absorbs it. And once absorbed, the rules change. The silence around Teyana wasn't emptiness. It was containment. A reminder that in certain circles, survival depends on discipline. Say less. Show more. Never disrupt the machine that's currently lifting you. According to the alleged framework Katt Williams has hinted at, this is where the real test begins, not when things fall apart, but when they start working again. Because recovery under a system always comes with terms, and those terms are rarely written down. At this point, the conversation around Tyler Perry shifted as well, not openly, quietly. Public praise continued. Professional alignment stayed intact. But the whispers changed tone. Not is he powerful, that was never the question. The question became, what does that power require in return? Hollywood insiders say there are two kinds of influence, the kind that elevates and the kind that locks you in. Once you benefit from the system benefits from your silence. That's the unspoken agreement. And when people break that agreement, they don't always get attacked. Sometimes they simply stop getting called. This is where the story stops being about individuals and starts being about structure. Because the same patterns repeat, not with the same people,